everybody, welcome back. Happy Thursday to another episode of GovConHacks, where we give you strategic tips and insights to help you get better at government contracting. I am your host, Ashley Duell, if we are not yet acquainted.
And I'm Natasha. It's nice to meet you all if you haven't. I'm her lovely co-host.
Look at her. Look at her arms crossed. We're in such defense.
It's such a week. And
It has been a week.
It's been a week. And I gotta say, I imagine it has been a week for all of you. How are you?
Yes, how are you? Can you just tell us in the chat how you're doing out there? If you are joining us, let us know you're still there, all right? And everything's good. We have a lot of things to talk about. There's so much stuff just like flying off the shelves. It's hard to even get it organized between episodes, and like it changes so often. So
I know.
There is one. Thank you. We did get a response. All good.
Good.
Definitely. I'm glad to hear that, guys. Keep them coming. So one quick little thing I wanted to get out of the way. This is just something that I have heard as a complaint the last couple of weeks. And it's been a while since I've had some significant SAM complaints. So a couple of the things that we're experiencing with the system is validation errors. And some weird things are happening where you're getting an IRS validation email and you're not supposed to, like at weird phases in the process. I was assisting a client through a registration error today and got the spinny screen, the 502 error. So if you guys are stuck, we were using Google Chrome browser. Do be sure to clear your cache and your cookies. Give it a day or two maybe and try again. It is just a short-term thing, but it can end up costing you a couple hours if you're like insistent. Maybe just walk away from it, come back, address it in a day or two, and it should resolve itself.
Do not throw your laptop.
Yeah, that's not necessarily an industry thing, just a tech thing that I noticed this week, as if there weren't enough issues this week. So let's get into some of the bigger stuff, shall we?
Yes, let's. So this week has been crazy, as you all know, especially for government contracting. I think it's pretty unique that for the first time we are noticing such a purview of government contracting on like this foundational pedestal now, where everybody's like focused on GovCon and wondering what is that. We're noticing such an awareness because these executive orders are affecting our industry heavily, not just federal employees, but they are also affecting federal contractors. And this week I have noticed that it's affecting state and local contractors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Hold on, I got a banner for that.
That's pretty rough because a lot of folks in the industry are saying, hey, federal may not feel safe right now. So maybe we should look into SLED, right? State, local, and education. But in many cases, we are also noticing that DEI programs, social service programs, human service programs are being canceled. Even awarded ones. Those contracts are being canceled. So we're noticing that funding is being taken away for those initiatives as well. So just be conscientious. I know as a small business, it takes a lot of time, effort, cost that may not hurt a big business, but it hurts a small one. So put in a proposal price, spend a lot of time and money on that. And even if you outsource those services, that's you usually, assume that you're going to have some return of investment on that.
Right.
It sucks if you get it canceled after you submit, or you win it and then you still lose.
Yeah, there was a situation this week, wasn't there, where after proposals were submitted, government cancels.
Yes.
And there's really no way to predict. And that's sort of what the pain is for small businesses right now, I think, on this particular topic, is because there is no way for you to tell, well, how do I know which contracts are going to get canceled? How do I know if mine's going to get canceled?
Yes.
I would say, and this is actually a question that I'll just ask it again for our audience sake. I know you answered it in the green room, but what are the contracts that you're seeing? What industries should just be aware and maybe communicating with their government stakeholders and related to their contract. What industries are we talking about here, other than
US.
DEI?
Well, other than DEI, right? So sadly, but anything that's of social service. So if you are Department of State and that is your main client, right? Department of State, and you do overseas support, think about
Oh,
that.
USAID. Oh yeah,
You
that.
are completely focused on America right now. So there may not be as many contracts. We're noticing some contracts canceling for Department of State contracts. A lot of overseas contracts, we're trying to bring that funding back in-house, right? USAID, anything that has to do with like, feeding people and supporting and, sex ed and all those things, that's being pulled back in because we are, looking at that money and seeing where it needs to go internally. We're also noticing consulting is being canceled. Services. There are a lot of labor category services that are being canceled. So program support services, project support
I
services.
have seen that. So let's talk about that because I know we have a lot of program project managers in the
Yep.
audience who either are SMEs owning a small company already
Mhm.
working on a contract in program management. So I did hear that program management, they're wanting to move more in-house, on an employee basis. Is that the same that you collected?
Yeah, it's so think of it this way, like the government has, used to outsource a lot of labor to government contractors. And they're still going to do that, but
Yeah.
they're revising how they do that because before they would have them all in house on their premises and their facility. Well, the government's looking to privatize. So we want you to take on that cost. That's major overhead. That's facilities. That's
Yeah.
managing hardware and software and managing people and office supplies, right? And the government contracting world, I mean, that was a really sweet gig because that's an off-site price. You essentially don't have to manage the employee. There was a project manager at the government site, right, that would manage them. You literally were just payroll. In many cases, you never even saw these people.
Yeah.
So you got to hire them, place them at the facility, and then charge the government for it to essentially help them staff their team.
So that'll turn into more of an executive search type of situation.
Yeah,
How I
executive,
kind of translate that then.
or you take it on yourself and they stay at your facility and still provide the support and work without the government having to have a facility for these employees.
Makes
So they're
sense.
saving themselves a lot of costs that they had
But at the
initially.
same time, so riddle me this one then, because at the very same time that that
Mhm,
objective is happening, you also have, for example, the RTO orders. I have a client provides training.
mhm,
But because of the RTO orders, they're not able to provide virtual training. So it's now going to be on the contractor to travel to the site, have the security clearance relevant for that site based on their restrictions and regulations,
mhm,
and include all those travel costs in the proposal.
mhm.
So playing devil's advocate here, I mean, how is that saving us money? But
I have no clue.
maybe
Because
that's a
put it
rhetorical
this way,
question.
like if that was changed after award, that's a modification,
Mm.
rightfully so, right?
No,
You
this is a new requirement, like, it's coming out
do,
right
yeah.
now as all of this is happening.
Well, that makes it also harder for a lot of companies to bid too.
That's what I mean, it's kind of a
Yeah,
it's
it's a double.
definitely cramping the small business, potential as far as making them competitive because a lot of us smalls cannot just drop everything, go, and when you do have to add your travel costs into the service that you're providing, sometimes that could, depending on where you're coming from, make it impossible for you to come in at a lowest price technically acceptable. So just to kind of open your minds up if you're in the audience today of different ways, even though it's not like black and white in your face, how some of these things might affect you, just what to take into consideration as you're
Right.
out there qualifying opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
Something else I did see, and we can probably revisit this cancellation of contracts because I am going to ask, like, Actually, let's just talk about that now. Contracts canceled.
Yes.
I'm a small business. Immediately, I think, oh my gosh, if I want to protest this, I have to have a lawyer, right? Or wrong? Well, let's unpack that for a moment.
Well, you only need to put in a claim. So you can put in a claim with your contracting officer. If it's a stop work order, there's a difference. So there's termination of a contract, and they're calling it termination of convenience.
Convenience, yeah. I
It's
bet.
convenient to terminate it, right?
Convenient for them to just terminate the contract.
The wordplay. So if you have that, that means yes, your contract has been canceled, right? But if you have a stop work order, that means pause. It's not canceled, but there's a pause. Now, you still have people, right? You're still paying them. So you can submit a claim with your contracting officer to get those costs reimbursed to you, right? Anything that it takes to keep everyone on pause, any cost that you have to incur because of this inconvenience, you can put in a claim for that reimbursement. If you have a termination for your contract inconvenience, then you can put in a claim with your contracting officer, and then we can also kind of share some of this information here, but you can also put in a claim.
Here, I'll move us out of the way. Go for it.
I just want you to be very, very aware. You can put in a claim with the Contracts Dispute Act. So the Board of Contract Appeals, the BCA, is in charge of getting you your money and ensuring that you are taken care of and that your claim is taken care of within 90 days. And of course, you have 60 days to get it approved or denied. If that doesn't happen, then the BCA can then get involved. And also there's a Court of Federal Claims, the COFC. So I want to share the FAR with you guys very quickly. And I know that no one likes the FAR, but the FAR is meant to show you your rights. So get very familiar with it. No one likes to read these little things on your contract, but they're so important because this is where the government literally has your rights. And sadly, when you don't know your rights, you don't know that you can say something. And that's, you don't want to take it on the chin and just be like, oh, I'll just take on that cost myself because you think it's one and done. And this is, it's the government. Sometimes we feel terrified or scared or, a little like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I guess it's just canceled, right? You don't really question it too much, but just know that you do have rights.
Question everything, if I can just say.
Exactly.
Everything. People get annoyed by that when I do it, but it's good practice.
She questions everything.
I do.
She questions everything. So acquisition.gov is your best friend. It is for me. I like to know my rights. So stop work orders. Everything that you need to know about your rights in a stop work order is in FAR 52.242-15. Please familiarize yourself with it. In the 90-day period stated in the clause,
may be reduced to less than 90 days. Watch out for terminology like that, guys. Maybe.
Terminate work or cancel work order, right? So read on these. You have the right to assert your rights within 30 days after the period of work is to stop. So you have 30 days to reply and say, I want you to either justify the stop work order. Why are we stopping work? Okay, well, now can I submit a claim in order to receive my final payment under this contract in a timely manner for all the costs that I have incurred? And if there are additional costs, I can submit a claim as well for that, showing that it is allowable, reasonable cost resulting from the stop work order in arriving at the termination settlement. So you are allowed to get your money back for essentially any cost that is reasonable in regards to the stop work order, right? You're going to have COBRA sent out to people. You're probably going to need to set out payments, and HR is going to have to be involved because, sadly, in many cases, if you have a stop work order, you might have to put people on administrative leave or something of that magnitude. Now, the termination for convenience, they have different kinds based on the contract type, but this one I'm just referring to as a fixed price one. It is FAR 52.249-2. This is the termination for convenience of the government. So the government is conveniently terminating and canceling your contract. What are your rights? This here has all your rights for in regards to materials, in regards to termination of subcontractors, what your rights are, what your subcontractors' rights are. If you have, inventory on hand, you were selling inventory and you purchased them all and they're in your warehouse, but now the government's not receiving it anymore. What costs is it to send it back? Is there a, shipping, I forget what they call it. There's usually a cost to return things, or can you not return it? And now you're stuck with this inventory. All of these things can be set up with the BCA for a claim for you to be reimbursed for all the costs and inconvenience of having this contract canceled on you. So don't just take it on the chin. You do have rights. It's here. And when we end this podcast, I will be sure to go into YouTube and put it on the links there so you can reference it.
Awesome. Very nice. Thank you for that. Now, I will say there is one other one we haven't talked about yet. A executive order rescinding the Biden era rule. Basically, what happened was we started out, Biden said, all right, federal workers get paid a minimum wage of $15 an hour. And that was supposed to increase. So in January, it did go up to $17.75 an hour.
Right.
So what it means now that it's repealed, essentially, and this was one of like 20 memos that were repealed last Friday, but that's bringing us back to the pre-Biden era federal minimum wage of $13.30 an hour, which was increased under the Obama era. Now, there are some contractors that will only be required to pay a minimum wage of $7.25 an hour.
I mean,
or the state applicable minimum
how
wage.
likely that is because
some states are still at $7.25.
That's crazy.
I mean, and it doesn't specify which industries, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I will say, what you are going to essentially check your solicitations, right? If there's going to be any variance to the 1330, it's going to be listed in the solicitation, the clause. So do keep an eye out for that in your qualification process. Because if you know who you're bidding against, has an hourly labor rate of $7.25 an hour, and you want to pay your people a living wage, you may not be able to be competitive on an LPTA. So I would definitely be taking that into consideration during my qualification phase of the bidding process.
Let's be real, though. I mean, what does that retention look like?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what industry, like
where are you gonna? Maybe janitorial. Like that's the only time I see it. Like, literally,
that doesn't even make sense.
Service of low, the lowest of the low. So I don't know. I mean, I do know they're supposed to be up because of this. They're supposed to be updating the wage determinations and all that stuff for SEA and labor. But I don't know. I saw this on LinkedIn, and someone brought a really good point up. They were like, I don't care what the wage determination says. I don't care what you think your minimum wage is. I can't hire anyone for that rate.
Right. And that's realistically, when you want to keep and retain talented people,
right,
you really kind of have to ignore certain things, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, with the cost it takes to onboard, train, in my case, certify, you put money and investment into each and every employee you hire.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but anybody's going to have a job for $7.25. They're only getting it to get that paycheck because they're applying for others in the background. Well, meanwhile, we as companies have to absorb all that cost to hire them, unbeknownst to us, train them, certify them, and then poof, they're out the door and we have to start all over.
Right.
So,
So
we
think
could
about
spend
potential.
hours
Even if
debating.
someone undercuts you, not every opportunity is your opportunity.
Right. If it's gonna cost you money, just don't bid on it. There will be
Yeah.
more. The government's not stopping spending money. Like, that's
No.
one thing we know for sure. Um, Things are changing, but that does not mean anything other than we literally pivot. Even if, like, we wake up tomorrow and there's no set aside program, there's still gonna be there's still small businesses and other than small businesses.
Right.
And that's built deep into rules that an executive order can't just do away with it. So, never say never, but
Honestly, that's just the way I'm taking this year.
it's almost like I'm watching
I remember like in the first
sitcom.
year when everybody was like, they can't do that. And this is the law. This is this. And then I was like, man, we're in March now. We're like, he can do anything now.
Well, I have to say, some things I feel for those at
Uh,
USAID. If you're a contractor at USAID, my heart really does go out to you. He takes the funding away, the judge blocks it. It's just this back and forth thing.
well, now you're going to see it with the Department of Education.
Oh, yes, that's one we didn't even talk about yet. So I heard that just a little bit ago on the
Mhm.
TV outside my office. Department of Ed is no more. Is that right? Is that
Y'all,
what I actually
mid
heard?
water. Um, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, so many people are like, well, what's going to happen to FAFSA? What's going to happen to education? Who's going to, because there's been cuts statewide for education. So I'm so confused because I thought we agreed that like if we're going to cut the Department of Ed, then those funds will go down to the states and the states get to decide what the education looks like. But that looks like there's cuts there too. So I think they had this thing in Colorado. I don't know if it was Colorado or Missouri, something like that. I got all my states mixed up, but there was like a whole either today or yesterday, it was like 1,000 teachers just didn't show up to school and they were like protesting at the state capitol.
Really?
Yeah, they just didn't they had to 80% of the schools were closed because there were no teachers because they're protesting because there were cuts. And I was like, wait, I thought we were so I was like, I don't know, but it's getting crazy. So Department of Ed, like if you're in, if that's usually your, agency, pivot because that's not it. We're noticing that funding is going again. Anything that has to do with social services, human services, education, like I'm sorry to say, like we don't know where it's going. It's not going to disappear completely, but we don't know where it is right now.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do, like if we're in the education space right now, for those of you in the audience, and you were targeting Department of Education, or they were on your hit list, or maybe you're doing business with them. What it means is that those responsibilities to run the education and fulfill the needs of the education system is going to be that responsibility of the state. So what does that mean if you're an education federal contractor? Make sure you're registered as a vendor with your state. The needs are not going to disappear. They might change a little bit, but really that money is just going from the federal level, now the state level. There may not be as much of it to go around, but if you don't already know your education stakeholders in your state, now would be absolutely the best time
Yeah.
to do that. Start reaching out, connect on LinkedIn, do whatever you need to do.
Right. Pivot, educate yourselves. There are a lot of programs out there that are still available to help you guys. I also want to just make my own little statement here in regards to when you notice things are uncertain. We noticed this during COVID, toilet paper. We noticed it whenever there's a national emergency where people are nervous or not necessarily thinking clearly because your emotions kind of get the best out of you and kind of like remove logic. Be conscientious. There are predators everywhere, people that take advantage. So I'm also noticing lawyers coming out of the woodwork saying that they'll help you with your canceled contracts so they can charge you an arm and a leg. Your claims are free. You can do this for free. You do not need a lawyer. It's unnecessary. Do not take more costs that are unnecessary. Along with that, we also have, companies that have, lost their contracts.
Yeah.
And so they're pivoting. Now they're government contracting consultants.
Oh yeah.
We're noticing
Yeah.
we're going to help you become a government. And I'm just, in the wise words of Tammy Hester.
Shout out to Tammy.
Oh, she's listening. Check the facts. If someone says they own a company and they were successful in government contracting, research their company. Look them up on the DSBS or look them up on USA Spending.
Yeah, I'd go straight to FPDS for this one personally, Natasha, because you can just paste their UEI right in there and all of it comes up. This is literally the only thing that I typically recommend FPDS for. But it's super easy. It takes 2 seconds.
Research them. Ask them what their UEI number is or their cage code.
And if they're not willing to tell you, big red flag.
Yes. Because anyone can say that they've won millions. But all I'm saying is if you're winning millions, you're not teaching government contracting.
Also, another tip for somebody that might be considering something like this, industries work differently in government contracting. So somebody who is super successful in janitorial is not going to give you the return on investment that you're seeking in something like IT.
Correct.
These are not necessarily interchangeable unless, this person is also an acquisition professional, right? And are trained on the FAR and know the variances between the industries.
Right.
Just because they have won these contracts in this particular industry does not mean that you can replicate that very same strategy, apply it to your other industry business and get the same results. This is not a one size fits all. So
yeah, it's not a rinse and repeat, folks.
Yeah, it's not a rinse and repeat, but I am seeing that rampant now.
I am.
And it's literally just like the last 4 days, everybody.
I was like, I get it. Like we all got to eat and we
do.
Just,
I respect the hustle, but
our job here has always been to be transparent with our listeners. And that's the whole point we started this podcast was for you guys not to fall into any sort of traps that would, kind of like permeate your growth.
Right. It's hard enough to grow out here as it is as a small business. So, there are a lot of bad actors, and some of them not even bad, but they'll still take advantage of the times when folks are feeling uncertain and desperate. So, if you have any questions, if you've experienced anything, you want to run a situation or scenario by us, we're always here for y'all. And before we head out, I don't see any questions in the chat, but does any of our listeners have any questions that are joining us here on the live? And those of you who might be listening on demand, drop your questions. We'll still answer them after the episode. Totally fine with that.
We are also start doing some trainings. So please be on the lookout. I'm going to be doing one on GovConHacks for AI. Proposal writing. So we're going to learn to use some prompts efficiently to write a good proposal and to understand the requirements. So you don't have to read the whole solicitation. Come up with some deliverables that could quickly help you decide if this is a bid, no bid, and then help you kind of create an outline and some content. And, obviously those AI prompts will help you to customize and guide you in writing better. And not just copy and pasting, but I can teach you a better way in using AI and the resources available to you at a very low cost. And this training, of course, will be free because it's GovConHacks.
You can always support us, though, by subscribing to the channel. We do have our membership launch. So some of the courses will be available in the members only. We kept the subscription super, super, super affordable. So it's certainly not going to break anybody's bank. But we will be posting more of our more in-depth content via that mechanism. So if you're not already a member, you can join on our channel in the subscribe area.
Yep.
Or I think it actually says join, JOIN. But you'll find it there. If you have any questions, let us know.
How much is members?
What's that?
How much is the member program?
We have 3 different levels of membership that YouTube opened up for us, and I think I kept that base, the lowest model. I think the lowest price they would give us was $2.99 a month. So here it is.
Not breaking your bank at all.
It is not. So I am gonna be moving basically all of my training from my learning management system over to YouTube members only content for the subscribers. So they're no longer gonna be, per course purchases. So if you're a member of the channel, you're gonna get them all. I'm really excited about that.
Hell yeah, we're excited to teach you guys everything that you need to know so that you can succeed at a way affordable cost than some of these programs are. And again, please follow, like, subscribe. We are always excited. All the things. We're all excited to have you here.
So thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoy your week and weekend. We will be back in 2 weeks. I know I said we were going to resume regularly scheduled content, but I swear if I don't stop getting hit with paintballs from executive orders, we can resume. I would love nothing more than that, believe me, to go back to talking about strategies and certifications and market research.
What?
Oh my.
We can start with not really a course, but we can start with let's navigate state. We can go through in our next one. We can go over state since everyone's kind of switching that way. What does the state look like?
Yeah, I think maybe that'd probably be a safe bet. It'd provide our listeners with some action that they can take today that won't necessarily as much interfere with or be interfered with by the federal mandate. So yeah, let's dig into that. Maybe we'll go over some solicitations, show them how to navigate different portals and stuff. That'd be cool.
That'd be fun. I like that.
Let us know what you think about that, guys. Drop your thoughts and suggestions in the comments. Would love to hear from you. All right, Miss Natasha. Well, I think it is almost beer 30. How about you?
Yeah, I need a drink, girl.
You have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we'll talk with y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.